My love, we're not fooling around with them. 2 minutes. Did you ever find out why Chris is leaving abruptly like that?
Yeah, it's good. Everybody's good.
Wow.
How many pieces next tomorrow?
I don't know to talk.
How are you? Almost ready there, John?
But yes, I'm good feelings. Right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
David,
How about please stay standing for a moment of silence, remember our police force, our emergency services, fire, and all those that go into harm's way to maintain our liberty. Thank you.
thank you, David. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. We will have, again, Zoom participants, if they wish to participate. I don't see, do we have any? Not at this time. On any issue, we'll take questions and comments from the board first, from people in the room. And then if there is anyone on Zoom, they can raise their hands. And the meeting is being recorded. I'm trying to break this down. The board did meet in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss personnel and legal contract matters. We also met as a board jointly with the West Township Board on June 22nd and July 12th to discuss police contract matters. And we'll take emergency services reports next. Chief.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Chief.
Good. How are you?
I'd like to begin tonight with a statistical report for the month of June. There were 1,940 calls for all three townships. With regard to East Coast specifically, there was 1,001 calls for service. Year-to-date calls for service for all three townships is 10,585. For East Goshen specifically, it's 5,690 calls for service. Our calls for service continue to increase. They're higher than they were before the pandemic, but we're continuing to monitor them for trends. And specifically, I want to talk about 4 trends that were prevalent in East Goshen during the month of June. Check theft and check washing. We've reported on this prior months, but what concerns me that there were 7 investigations in East Goshen during the month of June. It is the only township that is continuing to experience a large number of these crimes. It is very, very important that you report them to the police department because we are working with the postal inspectors on a much larger scale investigation.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. Can you tell us is there a pocket of places where this is happening? Do we know anything?
It is interesting because Southeast Pennsylvania has been hit, but we found in our other townships that the incidents have dwindled away significantly. It's only East Goshen that continues to be significantly impacted by this. And people are having the checks disappear out of their mailbox at home, corporate mailboxes, and also individuals have reported that they have mailed the checks directly from an official, either post box or a post office. That's one of the reasons why the postal inspector is so heavily involved, because a lot of people are assuming that like Airport Road must be the problem. No, there's also when mail's collected, it goes to different hubs. And therefore, it's a much larger investigation. That's why the postal inspector is the lead agency for this. but we're just concerned because we saw this trend. I reported on it like 6 to 9 months ago. All the townships were being hit, but now it's just particularly East Goshen is being hit heavily. So again, people even going to the post office are being victimized by this. The only thing that we have found to suggest individuals is when possible, do electronic banking. And number 2, if you must write a physical check, to use blue gel ink, because it appears to be harder for the individuals to wash, and because that's what they're doing. They're literally washing the check and then reissuing it in a different amount to a different individual.
Chief, on this trend, it's the United States Postal Service. So then, do we involve Federal Bureau of Investigation or any other federal house? How does that work from a local police department to county to federal or state or no?
Because it involves the mail specifically, automatically the federal agency of the U.S. Postal Inspectors get involved. Generally, the FBI doesn't get involved in that because there's another federal agency already involved, and it's an internal investigation for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's continuing to frustrate us because a lot of individuals, like you're paying all kinds of fees, your checks are bouncing, et cetera. And it's very frustrating for the individuals who are the victims of this crime. The other 2-3 trends that we had in East Goshen, we had 6 missing persons investigations in East Goshen, 1 juvenile and 5 adults. All 6 individuals were located. That's a rather high number for the township. We're not really sure. A lot of the adults are, it's dementia related. The good news to report on that side is that we have technology that in one particular East Goshen missing person, the individual was tracked using the new technology that we have regarding license plate readers. So they were located and they were able to be brought safely home because of that technology. Thefts, we continue to have a large amount of thefts in East Goshen, with 10 being reported. The only commonality was 3 of them occurred at the YMCA. So if you are an individual who loves that facility, and I don't blame you, we ask that you lock up your lockers. Do not rely on just sliding the lock on there, but not locking it. And that's been the case for most of the thefts that we've had there. And
Chief,
last,
on that, I park over in another township's recreational parking lot, and they've been hit, and they put signs up, like a yard sign that say this is a high theft location, please
right.
lock your cars and don't put any. Have we tried that? Does that make any sense, or is it?
We have been working with the YMCA and we have had one-on-one meetings. We are trying very hard to convince them to invest in good cameras, both on the exterior and on the interior. And they're very receptive to it, but obviously that's a huge financial investment, but that is what we've preferred. And that's why we do a lot of our like Crime Watch blasts and our Facebook and Instagram blasts, because we want people to be aware that the YMCA has traditionally been the victim of thefts from vehicles and theft from lockers.
Do you think it's something that we should consider for our own parks?
My understanding is your parks have extensive cameras.
I meant signage.
It can't hurt. It certainly can't hurt, but your camera system is excellent. It has helped us solve a lot of crimes. And the last one, although it's not a true crime, it is a crime. And I think the residents would be happy to hear that we had 10 soliciting without permit complaints in East Goshen in the month of June, and there were 8 citations issued. Generally, if people don't know, because the boundary lines between townships are very difficult, the first time we encounter somebody, we give them a verbal warning, and then we put it into the database. The individuals that we encountered in June just basically didn't care how many times they got their warnings, and we found them the same day or the next day doing the same thing. So they got citations. So I don't know if that will solve the problems for the residents, but that is a frequent complaint that we do get from residents, that these individuals are soliciting in violation of the township ordinances. So 8 citations. With regard to other things that happened, just real quick, I'll do a synopsis of what occurred, again, I said there were 10 theft investigations, which is a little high. 15 disturbance dispute calls, that's the norm. 9 frauds, which is the average. We have a wide variety of frauds that are being committed, everything from identity theft to lottery frauds to everything you can possibly imagine. The one thing I like to point out to people is the most expensive scams we're seeing now are romance, where you think you're meeting somebody and you fall in love, and ultimately they start bilking you out of money. Some of our most expensive frauds that we've had in our townships have been romance frauds, and they have gotten up into the amount of $40,000 to $50,000. So be careful. We had 2 sex offense investigations, 3 child abuse investigations, 2 drug investigations, including a Narcan save, which we're very proud of, and 3 DUI arrests and 2 weapons investigations. And lastly, I saved the best news for last. If you follow our department and what we've been trying to do, back in January, we were awarded a grant from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency for roughly $825,000. And we're going to put that money to good use. We're going to be using it on Friday to host an ice cream social at the East Goshen Park between 5 and 7. So we hope that you will come out, enjoy some good ice cream on a hot day, and take the opportunity to talk to officers about anything that might be on your mind that you want to discuss relating to the police department. So we hope that you will join us. And again, our thanks to taxpayer funds for the grant. Any questions?
No, thank you so much.
That's it.
Okay.
Thanks a lot,
Appreciate
Chief.
it.
I'll be there.
Good, good. We'll save you. What's your favorite flavor?
Strawberry.
Well, look, we'll try to save it for you.
Okay. Fire company, do you have that, or do we have a?
We have a
Have a
representative from
representative?
Goshen Fire. So I'll take
Wonderful.
the next 2.
Good evening, everyone. Just if anybody doesn't know, my name is Chris O'Neill. I'm the fire chief with Goshen Fire Company.
Good to see you.
Good to see you also. Grant's on vacation this week, so
Hey, Chris.
I'm subbing, and Teddy's on vacation, so. For the month of June, I'll start with our EMS calls. We had a total of 373 ambulance calls in the month of June, of which 163 were in East Goshen Township. Through the end of June, we run a total of 2,287 ambulance calls, of which 1,060 were in East Goshen Township. For the fire division for the month of June, we had 69 calls, of which 23 were in East Goshen Township. Through the end of June, we had a total of 328 fire calls, 144 were in East Goshen Township. Fire police, we ran 37 calls in the month of June, 11 of which were in East Goshen Township. Through the end of June, year to date, we had 197 fire police calls, of which 50 were in East Goshen Township. Basically, through June, we're seeing a 16% increase in our fire calls. It's just increase in call volume, fire calls, auto accident calls, weather-related calls. We had a couple of storms come through, it kind of boosts up those calls. You'd be surprised when storms come through, you can go from 0 calls to 6 calls within an hour. So luckily, recently the storms coming through haven't really hit this area. We've kind of bounced around it, but we did get one earlier in the year. Our EMS calls are up about 7% compared to last year. And it's just an increase in call volume again. West Goshen, East Goshen Townships, increase in call volume.
Chief, how
Yes.
about the false alarm calls? What, I don't remember what do we call them?
I got them here in a second.
Good.
Just some key indicators for the month of June. Out of that 373 ambulance calls, we treated 306 patients. 214 were over 65, which is about 70% of our patients treated. Our EMS calls to assisted living and retirement facilities was 155 calls, which is about 42%. And our automatic fire alarms, automatic CO alarms for the month of June was 30 calls, which is 43% of the calls for the month of June. Major incidents in June, we had a house fire on Clock Tower Drive on June the 2nd. And then on June the 9th, we had a car, actually also with the PD car into a building at New Kent Apartments on Rexton Drive, up at 352. 2:30 in the morning, use your own judgment. We participated in a multi-fire company drill with Newtown Square. We had about 10 fire companies. Involves a water shuttle drill for tankers for areas we don't have hydrants. It was an excellent drill, really showed the participation, neighboring fire companies all working together. preparing in case we have that type of a call, so everybody works together and knows how to handle the tankers. And obviously the big thing coming for up is the Goshen Country Fair. We're 13 days away, but who's counting? Starting on July 31st. So we're ramping it up. Hopefully the weather's gonna be behind us. I'm looking at the weather forecast. It looks like it's gonna get cooler and less humid. Hopefully it stays with us in the early August. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Who do people contact for Goshen Fair to find out where their booth is located?
That would be a question for Beth Smith. Or you can go to our website there for Goshen Country Fair. And let's leave a message. And if you probably even just leave us on a general message board and we'll make sure it gets to the
Yeah,
correct
because
person.
nobody's gotten back to somebody, so they asked me to ask that question.
I'll follow up with Beth, make sure that information gets sent out there.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
I look forward to seeing everybody there. I'll be the tall guy in the food booth sweating away. But I really appreciate all your support as always.
I'm appreciative all the time of your support, especially your help in in the grocery store when I need something.
If you need something on top shelf, I'm the one to find. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. I always run into this at the grocery store.
I will take the next two reports, Mr. Chairman. So for Malvern Fire Company for the month of June, Malvern Fire Company responded to a total of 179 calls, 35 of which were in East Goshen. Year-to-date responses at East Goshen has 192 calls out of 1,018, and that is 18.9% of Malvern Fire Company's total calls. Good Fellowship Ambulance. For the month of June, Good Fellowship responded to 571 calls, 61 of which were from East Goshen, and that constituted 10.7% of the total calls of Good Fellowship. Year-to-date responses to East Goshen was 351. And for year-over-year variance from June 2023 to June 2022, Good Fellowship was 24% higher than last year for calls to East Goshen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I made an appeal a couple of meetings ago about changing the emergency services report. Rather than just doing numbers. For instance, Chris just gave us the report and I was interested in, there's an increase in fire calls. What's the root cause for that? I mean, what kind of fires were they?
Yeah.
Should we be concerned about a trend? Is it a blip? That's more meaningful as far as supervision of the township than reading numbers. So
Do you want me to see if one person from these organizations can come each month? Because I can only do numbers,
no,
obviously.
I know that. Yeah, exactly. That's the-
So I mean, we can ask internally if they have that capacity to be able to
If
come.
we could just communicate to them that we're interested in more than numbers, we're interested in trends and issues that should come before the board. Because
Do we sort of want it in writing for them? Do we want them to come? Do
It
we want
would be better to
quarterly?
have it in writing.
I don't think they need to come to every meeting.
Okay.
I think they need to come when they have issues that are appropriate for the Board of Supervisors to consider.
Yeah, it's kind of like what the chief does. She
Yeah.
tried to highlight some of the issues in the township. that
Okay.
people
So if
pay
they see a
attention to.
shocking trend, they ought to come and talk to us about it and tell us why it's happening and what they're doing about it, or asking us what we
Okay.
think they should do about it.
Yeah, that gets better. That's community outreach.
Yeah,
We're just
exactly.
doing that as opposed to a lot of numbers, which are good to know for what ultimately comes down to budgets and responses, but
So would you only want those reports when they actually come then? And then we wouldn't have, so say Good Fellowship came every 3 months
For
or,
me, just the numbers of calls mean nothing. to
Okay.
me.
Okay.
So-
We would like it as a written part of the report, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
I think it should be.
I mean, we could have it, we could do this, we could have it in the packet still publicly, but we could only address it if somebody's here to
Right.
speak on behalf of the organization.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do that.
that's what I'd like to do.
Good.
I mean, is everybody okay with that?
We're all okay with that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, there are no public hearings tonight, so we'll move to Mr. Ware and the financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As of June 30th, net of pass-through general fund had year-to-date revenues of $7,777,365 and expenses of $5,851,724 for positive net result of $1,925,641. As of June 30th, the general fund balance was $7,866,465. Our June year-to-date revenue overall finished flat, about 1% or $74K over budget compared to the adopted 23 budget. Real estate transfer tax collections are 167,000 behind. Cable franchise fees are down 12K and alarm ordinance fees are down 9,000. Offsetting those shortfalls, we received a 92,000 payment from FEMA for our 2021 Hurricane Ida storm damage. It was a long process, but with the finance department, Mark Miller, and everybody under the sun, we finally got that money. Offset, so the interfund operating transfers are up $69,000. That's due to the increased sewer recharges from Public Works going and helping out, making changes, using equipment. We charge back for that, and it's about 30 to 40% of what a third-party vendor would charge. Public Parks and Recreation classes and summer programs were up $43,000, and interest income is up $57,000. June year-to-date expenses are 1% or $54,000 over budget. Building expenses, sewer stormwater repairs are running ahead of year-to-date budget, partially offset by a 2022 surplus credit from WEGO and lower road and street work. Although insurance looks ahead of budget, this will come back down when healthcare and workers' compensation expenses get reclassed. It was really a timing issue in June going into July. Year-to-date revenue is 14% ahead of 2022, and that's driven by our real estate property tax collections, the increase in millage. Interest earnings are higher than we thought, about 60% ahead, and Parks and Recreation classes and summer programs. Our year-to-date expenses are 9% higher than 2022, and it's almost across the board. We have insurance premiums that were budgeted at 6% higher, building expenses, general operating costs, and those are the primary drivers for our versus prior year for expenses thus far. I've got all the balances for the various funds here. If anybody's got any questions on any particular line items or fund balances, I'm happy to answer them.
Dave, the lower road and street work year to date, that just has more to do with schedule, right? They're underway with a lot of paving, and that's not going to show up till later. Is that that's going to work back into budget? Or
I would expect overall Public Works will be back into budget. It's really when you do the budget, I do a percentage based on the prior year and look at the other prior years and say, how much percentage do we do sewer work? How much percentage do we do stormwater? And then I look at the months that we worked in those fields. That's how it gets spread apart monthly, year to date. So overall, we're still healthier in Public Works overall budget right now. I would expect it to come back to the norm because we are going to have that. And we've already seen that we've got some outstanding stormwater materials and constructions to do this year.
and with sewer recharges being up, is that a trend, or is that just for a spike for particular reasons? Because ultimately, while it's relatively speaking a small part of the sewer operation, there's a correlation there with sewer user fees in the budget ultimately.
Yeah,
So is it a trend, or is it just a spike that may settle itself down?
it's a trend. It spiked originally last year was the big noticing point, but for the last 3 years when I ran it back, Public Works time has increased between 5 and 10% in the sewer, and that makes sense with the timeline of the station. Basically by 2030, 2032, almost everything will need to be replaced from when it was originally done for the restructure. So within the next 7 to 10 years, we're going to probably see that continue. We do save a lot of money using our guys, but it is tough because it stretches them thin. We're on a schedule and discussing this same issue with the municipal authority. We do try and refurbish and repair anything possible to get as much life out of it. And sometimes we've just got to do a full replacement. So trying to piece it together as we can, but also replace when we have to. And that's kind of the long-term 10-year plan for the sewer rates and the possible increases in the future
Yeah,
as well.
and plays in, then again, back to sewer recharge. with
Yes, sir.
time. Yeah, thanks.
Mhm.
All right, any questions?
I
Questions
just
from the
have a
room?
comment real quickly. Just want to recognize Dave's work in managing interest income and maximizing
Good
the
point.
vehicles that we have available to us with the changing economy and his maximization of those transfers of those funds into places where they should be. That's the interest income, $57,000 for the report is a significant amount of money that offsets expenses. So I just want to thank Dave for his diligence on that.
Very good. And for folks listening, the
Thank you, Dave.
municipal governments have very strict limitations on where they can invest funds. They can't go to penny stocks. They can't go to the open market and buy shares of stock. It's very, in some respects, it's conservative for a reason, and that is municipalities should be risk averse and protecting their principal, so to speak. So,
Exactly, and
but,
that's
through-
why we're also over FDIC insured in all of our.
That's right. Everything is
accounts.
collateralized.
Yeah, it's not
fully.
250,000 like the public. It's
Yeah,
100%.
that's good for folks to know. too,
Yeah,
is-
and
is
our new
insurance.
hire that started in January this year, Dana Guider, who replaced Barb, is taking on a role that she reports to me on a not every day, but every couple day basis to give me the balance checks. So she's helped out in that regard as
Oh,
well.
excellent. Oh, that's good. Yep, thanks.
Any other questions about the finances? Okay, we'll move on. And pick a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to pass the minutes from the June 6th and the June 20th meeting with the slight change of the June 20th meeting minutes on page number 4, line 2. It says Cody stated this is something the board that we should look at and eliminate that we before should. Make it flow. Normally, I don't care, but since
I would
was so
second
quick-
that with the change.
Okay. Any questions about the minutes? Any other corrections? No? Anybody in the room? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Take another motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move we accept the receipts and approve the expenditures as presented in the expenditure register and as summarized in the treasurer's report.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Dave, is there anything in here we should know about? Besides everything?
Of course,
It's a longer period, right, for our pack. It's almost a
it
month.
is, it's nearly a full month.
Yeah.
The big thing I would say is probably we did get the 2 replacement trucks
Yeah.
with the plows. One of them was definitely on schedule and the other one was a little bit ahead of schedule. And that was because we've realized that truck that was in an accident years ago is costing us more to go into the shop occasionally, more often than not. And we put those out to bid, put them up for 36,000 a piece and didn't get that minimum requirement. So we're going to put them back out in October and we think we'll easily get that. So that will offset the 140,000.
Dave, on the expenses on the Applebrook outing, that's offset by greens fees and stuff. So
100%.
Yeah, 100%
Yes.
pass through. Okay.
Yes.
Dave, the status of the Maui audit, is this a final payment, the $8,000? What's the status?
It is. We didn't actually get their original invoice. Everybody, just like the chief noted, is dealing with mail issues. It's going on 1.5 years probably now, but
Okay.
they reached back out to us and we gave them the final payment. So that is the absolute zero
All right,
now.
and under district court expenses, for those that don't know, the township leases the building where the district court is to the district magistrate. Are our expenses that we're incurring as the landlord, keeping up with the lease, rental? Are we keeping an eye on that going forward? I don't know when the current lease expires.
It expires in 2028, and
Okay.
I am keeping an eye on it. We can only increase it based on the contract up to 2%.
Yeah.
From June to June, 12-month trending CPIU. So I did just send them the letter. I talked to the girl on the phone, and we did get the increase at our 2%, but it's very negligible. I did speak to the auditors about it. They were shocked how little we get in
Yeah,
rent for
yeah.
a place that's
We
in
we
this
shouldn't be
municipality.
subsidizing it. That's my point.
A-
So.
And we
going down the
originally
road.
did, in the negotiation, looking back at contract, and some emails, it looks like we redid the entire area in order to get that contract through. And so I don't think we broke even and probably won't until a year.
Okay. Something to keep an eye on. Just got my attention.
Yep.
On the SPCA contract, have we had any recharges, if you will, to identified individuals so that we could recoup any of the fees? That was-
Yeah, I did just have one last month that I put out to, for an RTO. Anything that gets returned to owner, that we're notified of, that we got billed by the SPCA that was found in East Goshen. If they return it to an owner, we can back bill for that. So we send a bill to the owner. Now, the only problem is if they refute that charge or don't pay it, then we'd have to bring them to court, and it's typically about $119. So it's
I-
kind of a losing proposition. but it's-
Yeah.
But we are keeping up with it.
Under vehicle maintenance and repair items, we have intercon truck for the replacement of a couple saddle boxes for vehicles. Amounts to $1,800 between the two, but we see that as an operational cost rather than a capital cost?
Yes,
Okay.
those are added on to pretty much to the trucks once we have already had the trucks.
Okay. And did we have a particular issue with Higgins on the traffic light repair Reservoir Road in Strasburg at $3,800? Did we have an accident or something there?
I
There's
believe
something
so.
special? Okay.
And I was struck.
Yeah, we have a couple insurance claims outstanding right now.
Okay.
I wanted to ask about one of those outstanding claims. I didn't see anything specific, but I'm wondering, have we heard anything about the Wilson Drive Airport Road claim? Because that was where the guardrail was mashed down intentionally. Twice.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten the payment back yet from that one. They did come out and do the adjustment, I believe, which
Okay.
is why we put in a camera there to
Yeah.
protect our investment, because the one that we just put up has
Mhm.
already been
Smashed down
tagged.
completely.
Not smashed completely, I don't think. I saw it today,
Well,
but they tagged it, yeah. So Mark's gonna get with the police or whoever necessary and start going back and getting people on the hook for these things.
That corner is still in East Goshen, isn't it?
It is,
Yes,
and he
that's
reached
why.
out to WeGo PD the last time that we had one. I mean, it was like a $25,000 investment overall.
Yeah.
And they had no reports or anything like that. And they should really just sit on it. It's a terrible intersection
Yeah.
for trucks going around there. They
The
miss it
radius
every
is just
time.
way too sharp.
And we pushed it back this time. They set it back an additional amount of feet and put in the camera, so.
All right, well, that ought to take care of it with a camera.
Yeah, let's hope so. Thanks, Dave, for
Yep.
your responses.
Thank you, David.
Sure.
I just want to make a remark. Noticed on page 13, that we spent $12,000 taking down 40 dead cottonwood trees in the month. And so I'm just making a public awareness of our tree problem in East Goshen. And by the way, if you divide the number of trees they took down by the fee, it's $300 a tree, which is
Well,
really not bad.
I was actually gonna say, David, per the contract, that amount should have been double of what we paid. The guy we're working with is a really good guy. He's really good at what he does, and he gave us a discount because of the amount of trees that it was.
Could I
So
say his name?
you can, go ahead.
Should.
Yeah, it's Travis Orner. He's done
Yeah.
a terrific job. And he does give us a discount, even though he's probably not supposed to, but even with all of that, we've still paid him about $80,000 in year-to-date July.
Well, it's all the dead trees. It used to be the ash trees because of the ash borer. Are the cottonwood trees similarly affected?
not to the same extent.
Little bit on
They're a
ash.
soft tree,
Yeah.
and they're susceptible to damage and insect infestation more than oaks and
All right,
maples.
thank you.
I had a chance to see Travis's work. He leaves a very,
Very careful.
very carefully cleaned up site. He does a really good job.
Very good.
Oh, we did start, I didn't mention, we did start on Bow Tree. The original pre-dredging bathymetric survey has been done. So that'll determine the depth and the amount of sludge we probably have to take out for dredging. I talked with Mark today and we will probably get through all of the dredging, bag it, and then the second half will happen probably by spring, early summer of next year. So we'll see half of that cost, which is roughly 200 to 300,000. Half of it this year, half of it next year.
We have to take that off-site, the bag bridge.
No, they're actually, we had two different options. So we could bag it and put it there and leave it, or we could press it. And Mark's feeling was, he went out and saw a couple other sites and he said, it's just not worth the pressing. And he's not sure that it's going to do any better. And it costs twice to 2.5 times as much. So we'll leave them on the, we're just going to clear some grading and leave them there right on site to do it. And then pop the bags, spread it out, plant.
Okay, good. Any other questions from the board?
Yep.
Any other questions, Mike,
No, thank you.
guys? Okay, any questions in the room? Good. Seeing none, I'll call the question then. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. Under old business. Oh, you had the
Stormwater.
big one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is stormwater ordinance change, and this would be ordinance 29-E-2023. So this is, we've talked about this multiple times over the better part of a year now, most recently in June. This is a necessary update to our stormwater ordinance countywide, replacing the 2013 model ordinance with the 2022 Act 167 Stormwater Management Model Ordinance. So this is mainly, all things that we have to do when you look at DEP and county requirements. But it did give us a chance to clean up some other things on the local level. And, the board had some input there. And I think the biggest thing is, you can see in the memo, I won't read it verbatim, but it is the exemption square footage for the regulated activity for stormwater. And if you see the second to last paragraph, the exemption regulated activity will be set at less than 1,000 square feet. It used to be 10 square feet.
Mhm.
So it was quite low comparably to everybody else. And then in between 1,000 to 2,000 square feet, we will be doing the simplified approach. Beyond a 2,000 square foot project, a more detailed stormwater plan would be needed. Sort of full blown engineering stormwater plan. We do have Megan from Pinoni in the back there that was instrumental in updating this ordinance. So if there's any technical questions, she's there to answer them. But if the board is still comfortable with the language, which they were on June 6th, the draft motion is in the memo.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, I move we pass ordinance 129-E-2023, amending Township Code Chapter 195 titled Stormwater Management to reflect the 2022 Countywide Act 167 Stormwater Management Model Ordinance.
I have a quick question. It was actually in the minutes from June 6th. I had asked if we need to sunset the Stormwater Appeals Board, or if you can see how it was formed. And you were going to try to look into this for the meeting here tonight.
That's a good callback.
So, just curious, did you
There
find
was
anything
no,
out?
I didn't see any sunset clause. So I guess it's probably, since we're going to get rid of that, we'll probably be at a board meeting in order to close the loop on that and get rid of it.
And then the
I'll work with
repeal,
Mark. on
so
that.
somebody has, if someone wants to make an appeal
It-
to their stormwater maintenance
It would be
plan,
directly to the board of supervisors
they just come, and is
right
that,
now, as of right now.
okay,
Yeah.
that's perfect,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. It's
Yeah.
just, it just cleans it up, tidies it up a little bit.
Okay, any other comments from the board?
No,
So residents know, with these exemptions now and the increased allowance of up to 1,000 square feet for impervious surface improvements. that should translate to cost savings to the homeowner. And at the same time, not compromise, the intent of stormwater management. So I think it's a positive move. That was one of the few things as a municipality, we were able to have some discretion over up to certain limits, and that's where we are at 1,000 square feet. So that's a positive. And residents may not know that going forward unless they've had a prior experience with a stormwater matter associated with an improvement where they've had impervious surface and they've had to accommodate it. They'll have a little bit more freeboard now, which is, I think, positive.
Good comment. Jody, Michelle?
Nope.
Anything over here? Okay. Anybody in the room want to comment or question?
Anybody like a copy?
And
It's only an inch.
It's great reading.
Michelle, is it?
Megan,
Megan, I'm
Megan.
sorry. You went all through this. God,
Thank you.
God
Thank you,
bless
Megan.
you.
she really did.
That's a piece of work. That's a piece of work. All right, not hearing any questions, I'll call the question then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you very much.
Diligence on that.
You're Michelle.
I'm Michelle. Hi, it's nice to
I'll
meet
call you, I'll call you
Michelle,
Megan.
you're John, right?
I
No
don't
charge. You sure somebody doesn't want a copy of this? No, come on.
No,
Before it gets recycled.
All right, also under old business, we have the authorization for advertising the Comcast cable franchise agreement ordinance.
And that is me again. So we will, we started actually March 2022, working with a consortium of 5 municipalities through the Cohen Group to renew our Comcast franchise agreement, just like we do with Verizon. These are in place so the municipalities can get a portion of revenue from the infrastructure that these companies have in the township. I think it's too low, but that's another story.
Yep.
So it does allow us to capture some revenue from cable providers, 5%. So the Cohen Group was doing these negotiations, and we finally have a tentative agreement in place along with the other municipalities. It's a lot of information there with the executive summary, the ordinance that we would be asking for approval August 1st, the agreement itself, and then the public notice that will be going out. I'll work with Mark to get that out if you give the go ahead. So Phil Fraga from the Cohen Group will be here August 1st, I think via Zoom. So if there's any questions from the board or the public from now until then, you can ask it that night, or if you would like to submit questions to me prior to then, you can do that at ddavis@eastgoshen.org, and I can get that prior to the meeting. But he has been the one working on this the entire time and would be the best person for those little intricate details on this agreement. So again, not passing the ordinance tonight, looking for a motion to be able to advertise for this.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we authorize the township manager to advertise public notice regarding the approval ordinance of the Comcast franchise agreement be considered at the August 1st regularly scheduled board meeting.
Second,
Thank you, David and Michelle. I have 2 comments to make. First of all, a question. Dave, I guess I should ask, how much money do you think we'll get out of this?
I have zero way to tell.
But the
It's
trend is down.
until they,
How much money did we get last year, approximately?
I want to say it was about 75,000 from
75,000,
Verizon. and
okay.
from-
And it continues to go down.
And you expect it to go down?
Been trending down every.
It
year.
has, they said that they've caught some new fees that were instituted in the past few years. I don't know what that amounts to.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not
Not
trying to
much.
put you in the
No,
spot. I was just curious.
no, yeah.
What
Until we
neighborhood we
can,
were in.
until we can,
Verizon
hopefully
has
it slows the trend a little bit.
Verizon has the larger percentage in the township.
Yes,
I'm not sure really, maybe 60%. Comcast has 35, 40%.
I'll buy that.
Something like
Okay.
that.
It's
Okay.
close.
For, revenue purposes and subscribership.
But just to get on the soapbox again, because I brought this up last year, we're not, the revenue is going down because people are cutting the cord,
Yeah.
but just because the technology is changing and that medium's changing, doesn't mean municipalities should get cut out of the loop here in the revenue. And that's what's happening, and that needs to change at a federal level law, so.
Yeah, that's
just my.
talking about.
But a lot of this contract
Yeah.
prohibits some of that. They were unbundling and carving services out and things like that. And some of this contract puts that
Back in.
back in.
There's a
Captures
little bit.
Well, the only other comment I had was, I've never seen an executive summary that was 6 pages long. But there it is.
Well, may I offer a couple comments?
Sure.
First of all, the executive summary was sloppy. Borough was referenced 8 or 10 times as opposed to township, so they ought to, it's not the document. But on page 25 of the ordinance, it's the Township Board of Supervisors, not a council. Since that's going to be in an ordinance, that page 25 should be corrected.
Good catch.
Also, well, I did read this one. I have to admit, sure you don't want a copy. I didn't read the whole storm. Okay. Also, I have a question, Mark. This may be for you, on provision 8.3, page 25, it uses the word revocation. That may be a synonym for termination, but maybe I missed it, but an actual termination clause by either of the parties. Did I miss it? Is it in there? I can, we can go to, I think it's kind of important. And the reason I say that is because I think our Verizon franchise agreement that was updated a year or two ago, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
the term is shorter there. They only gave us like a 5-year or 3-year,
I
5.
think, it was 3 or 5.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Comcast is offering or indicating a 10-year term when the landscape is changing so dramatically. And so the aspect of a termination of the contract or the franchise agreement with that kind of language versus revocation. And I think revocation is more related to performance rather than termination for other causes, Mark. I mean, it could be.
Yeah. It's something that's in the law, and you can see that if you make a decision to revoke the franchise, that you have to have a public hearing.
Yeah.
Evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a contract termination.
That's why the word's revocation, Mark.
That's
That's enlightening for me, and I appreciate that. I think, and just so folks know, there are performance clauses in here associated with how quickly. I have to laugh because they if you want to make have a complaint about the time it takes for the cable company, in this case Comcast, to answer the telephone. The time limits for commencing, they have time limits for commencing installation. They have a 30-second timing if you call in to get a subscriber representative, or if they transfer to you another party, 30 seconds to get in touch with that party. How many people it's only taken 30 seconds when you've called your cable company? It's happened to me, I don't know. But it's, I kind of was laughing when I saw it, but who in our lives has the time to complain after you've waited on the phone for half an hour anyway to get an answer that all they want to do is say, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not going to say anymore. That was just an editorial.
Well, thank you for venting. Anybody else on the board have a comment? No, anybody in the room? I don't hear any. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, we
Yes,
did.
I
have a
Yes, we
motion.
do. I'm
I
sorry,
seconded that
David
motion.
and Michelle, good. Let's vote on the motion then. All in favor?
I
5-0.
Bottom line is, folks, the FCC has 99.9% of the control over all of this. And we are just here.
Okay.
Don't complain to us. I'm
Under
sorry.
new business, we have Giant Supermarket doing renovations and talking about work hours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to introduce this, we do have some Giant representatives here for questions if needed. Dwayne Brady and I, Dwayne's the Director of Code Enforcement here at East Goshen. We've been talking with Giant over the last few weeks. Giant is actually doing this in, I think, a few stores in the area. But the issue is they would like to do the renovations to the store here on Boot Road overnight. And they presented it to us. For them, it presents a safety concern for people shopping during the day to have to shut down the entire, to have to allow people to shop while they're doing construction. So the only other alternative would be shutting down the store during the day, and that does not pose a very good option either for the people that frequent that store in the area. So they came to us with this proposal about a inside schedule for work from 10 PM to 6 AM while this work is going on. It's a pretty complete renovation of the store. I think, as you can see in the memo, staff really doesn't have an issue with it. We think it probably is the best way to go from a safety perspective and from a practical perspective. But in talking with everybody, we just didn't think internally we had the ability to say yes or no on an administrative level. So we wanted to bring this to the board. I don't know, I'll talk to Mark right here on this, but I don't know if there necessarily a vote is needed on it, but we just really wanted to bring it to the board's attention, make the public aware of it. And then we can work something out administratively with Giant, but that's essentially it.
Mr. Chair, I've read the review that Derek and staff have put together here, and it certainly makes the plan or the proposal here certainly makes a lot of sense to not disrupt our residents' access to the store. It is a frequent use, and also, you know, their business plan and to try to do it practically, they have insurance issues as well. The only question I have, and it's for you, Mark, is that this is not, there's no variance here. This is within our legislative authority to do this, or is it just, do we just leave it to the staff to affect?
I think it's within the enforcement discretion. Code official, zoning officer, what have you, concerning any issues related to noise that they put on.
And as I understand it, the entire, we don't really appreciate you being here. We don't need a large presentation unless other board members are interested. So we support your update for the benefit of the customers, and many of them are residents. It was indicated that the work will be conducted at night, will be all inside. There won't be deliveries coming at night. Any movement of materials, et cetera, will occur during the daytime hours. And of course, we know that relative to residential separation or distance, there seem to be hundreds of feet to Wellington
and Yardley.
and Yardley in the villages
Yeah.
of Hershey's Mill, and of course, across the street. And it's the fact that it's all internal, I don't see an issue with noise or a concern there, but I don't want to just dismiss any residential properties and residents in the area, but it just seems that the location is really fine to do this work, and especially since it's contained indoors at night. So I'm supportive of it. I think it's good. Other comments?
Yeah, the only comment that I'd like to make is, we need to just have a little clarification as to when the work is going to occur, because it's a little conflicting in the background and then in the draft motion, if there was a motion. So what days, I think I would like to have clarification from the representatives to know which days they plan on working overnight. Because we want to make sure that they're not working overnight on a Sunday or a holiday. And we want to know if they're going to be working on a Saturday as well.
Monday through Friday, I thought.
Because it says in our draft motion, it says during the following hours and days, Monday through Friday, 10 PM to 6 AM. And no work on Saturday, Sunday, or holidays. So I want to have clarification that Giant is going to have their construction be able to follow that recommendation. So is there a project manager here? Are you the project manager? Can you come on up to the microphone so that we can ask a couple questions on that, or?
Yeah, we're on YouTube, so you have to stand there and talk into the microphone. So that-
Sure.
And we just need to
Thanks
have
for
your,
being here, though.
yeah, thanks for coming out. We need to have your name as part of the record. though.
Sure. Mike Stoll, counsel for the applicant who submitted the construction permits for the project. And appreciate the staff of the township working with the applicant and to put together the plan. So the typical work schedule on evening shifts like this is Sunday evening through Thursday evening. But to the extent that they've already sat down with township staff to put together a plan that's acceptable to the township, they made the commitment to continue to do that.
So then work would be done Sunday, starting at 10 o'clock inside.
Correct.
So all outside noise is going to end by 10 o'clock. And then everything's going to be done internally.
Correct.
What kind of accommodations are going to be made for break time? So when these guys need to take a break, what are they going to do? Where are they going to go?
So a plan was submitted to staff. Is that in your packet? I think Dwayne has a copy of that. We can certainly make it available. We have extra copies that we can present to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that we have assurances that there's going to be, the noise outside is going to be kept to a minimum. That's all.
So all the work, just to that question, generally, all the work is going to be happening inside, so it won't be audible outside the, to-
Say, I appreciate this. Giant. I'll give it right to her.
sounds good. We'll make some marks where the ice cream's at. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that's.
But in terms of the general operations, the work's going to be happening inside, so it won't happen. They're going to store debris inside. There's going to be no dumping outside during the evening hours, so that's only going to occur after 7 AM. So that won't be impacted by the ordinance timeframe. And then if you look at the light yellow shaded areas, that's where breaks. So there's red boxes here and here where they're designated break areas for the employees that'll be working on the project.
So the current designated break areas out front for the employees, that's also going to be where you're going to have your folks, if they want fresh air, they can go out there. Okay, and they're not going to be wandering around back and calling people in the middle of the night and being noisy. I know it's hard, you can't control people, but
They'll be working. We're gonna keep them busy.
of course. But the thing is, the first time somebody complains, gonna be one of the people right behind there in Yardley. They spend a lot of money in that store. And I just want to make sure that you're not gonna have anybody, I just want to make sure that somebody is making sure that they are admonished ahead of time to make sure that they're not wandering the building and taking a smoke break in the back and talking on the phone at 3 a.m.
So part of the other plan, piece of the plan that's been submitted by the applicant to the staff, it's an outline of the procedures that'll be followed. So there are plans to instruct folks where they're going to be breaking, what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, and a key point of contact to deal with any of those complaints so that there's 24-hour follow-up as soon as they're brought to the applicant's attention.
Great, I don't have any other questions.
Will there
Thank
be
you.
a lot of fabrication on site, or is the fabrication done off-site and then equipment moved in? I'm just trying to figure out the source of noise, other than regular power tools.
Apologize. Bill Wally, the Giant Company representative out of Carlisle. Great question. All equipment is manufactured elsewhere. It's already in a storage facility here locally. And so all of that will be loaded into a trailer, brought to the store, unloaded prior to the 10 PM process, and will be set up inside. The work that you're going to see inside is typical construction. We got to do carpentry, we got to build walls, we got to paint, we got to, move drains. We need to run new piping for the new refrigeration systems. Typical process that happens in a grocery store remodel. Our focus here, we have zero ability to guarantee employee behavior. We do have the ability to go after employees who make mistakes. And so our intent will to be very clearly associated with this daily, reminding them of the consequences that come from making any type of a violation of this noise ordinance. As well, Dwayne offered to come often and do random checks in the middle of the night. And so there's going to be those offerings to the team to let them know that, hey, you never know when Dwayne may show up and have a review of what's going on. And so I think there's a lot of pieces that we can talk to with our teams. We've done this a lot. The team that's here that's going to be doing this is Linmar Builders. They've done in the last year, literally over 30 projects for us. And so it's a group that we trust and we're partners with. So
Just a matter of heightening the awareness of the unique location.
Yeah.
The neighbors behind, it's an over 55 community, and the neighbor next door is a Wellington Senior Living Center. So, we just, as long as the workers are aware that their neighbors are, a uniquely vulnerable population that needs their sleep.
I've done this a lot of years, and I have no problem creating guidelines for the contractor, and the contractor has no problem following those guidelines. So the typical process we can control. It's that individual who doesn't think about it at 3 o'clock in the morning and his wife calls him and he goes outside and he has a conversation. So that's the area that we're going to be really focused on, is making sure they understand where breaks go. So You bet.
How, do you have an idea how long the project will last?
our schedule's 14 weeks from start to finish. And so after that, we will have 2 to 3 weeks where we'll do punch lists so that we can complete. Our discussion with Derek and Dwayne was that we'd really like to get done before the holidays. That helps us from impacting customers during the really important times of the year. And so if we can get started, then we should be done before we get into the November timeframe. So
I thought I heard a reference to the break area being in the front. Of
Yes.
the store. I see it in the back of the store.
That's actually the front of the store.
And they had
Yeah.
When I saw it here, I was thinking that
That's
was
the-
the,
Dumpsters in the.
these
back.
are our dumpsters.
oh, of course.
This is
of
their only
course.
break area.
That's threw me off because I was thinking, oh, that's starting in the
So
parking
this will
lot.
be a permanent
with you.
dumpster, and that's a storage container.
Yes, I'm with you.
All deliveries will come through here.
And the workers' cars will park in
Down
the,
here.
in the
Front of the
front.
We don't need
Okay,
them.
that's, and from a security standpoint, there's some value to that, to
Yeah.
show that there's, for whoever may come into that shopping center with some other ideas at that time of night. But the other thing that should occur, we'll have coordination with the police, so obviously the police know what's going on there, right?
Mhm.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Police Commissioner Michelle.
Yeah.
It almost
Thank you,
sounds like
Bill.
you've done this before.
So you've already contacted WeGo?
We haven't done anything.
Okay. Do you know when you're gonna start? Do you know when you're gonna start yet? Of? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, very good.
We're not gonna hold you up.
All right.
Do we have any other questions from the board?
No,
No other
thank you.
questions?
Thank you.
Questions in the room? Anybody? Okay, I don't think we need a motion for this, so I'm gonna just ask.
There is a motion
members.
here.
We don't need one though.
We don't need it.
Oh, in case. Oh,
Yeah.
very
They,
good.
they can just go with
David?
our blessing, huh?
Yeah, Dwayne and I will get with John
Ready?
and we'll work out the details.
You're good.
So, thank you.
Cody, you good?
Yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah, all
All
is well.
5 of us are on board,
No
so
problem.
let's start it.
All right. I'm sure
Okay.
it'll be good.
We
Good
appreciate
luck
it.
with
Do it
the
quick.
project. I'm sure it's gonna be a successful one.
I'm sure you are.
Thanks
Thank you
very
so much
much.
for
Thank
coming,
you for
gentlemen.
coming.
Good to see you, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
The next new business pipeline task force letter. You have that?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a request from our pipeline task force for the township, namely myself, to send a letter to the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, also known as PHMSA, And we do have a representative from Pipeline Task Force here, Judy, if,
Paul?
sorry, and Paul, I didn't see back there, Paul, sorry. And David is also the liaison as well to Pipeline Task Force. So we have some people here beyond me if there are other questions as well. But again, mostly to garner more information on the design and safety of ME2 and ME2X, the way it is constructed by Energy Transfer and its subcontractors. So the letter is attached.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion. We allow the township manager to sign the draft letter, if that's the appropriate party to sign, and authorize him to send it to the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration's Eastern Regional Office on behalf of the Pipeline Task Force and the Board of Supervisors for East Goshen Township.
I'll second. Then let me give you a little background. Paul is from the industry and had a lot of questions about pipeline thickness and
Yeah.
pipeline quality in high consequence areas, and our entire township is a high consequence area because we're densely populated with the dangerous NGL liquid coming through pressurized pipes. So the Pipeline Task Force considered freedom of information and decided that maybe the best approach would be a friendly approach of sending a letter asking these specific questions because there are different thickness diameters required in HCA areas versus non-HCA areas. And we have no idea who is inspecting and looking at those things during the construction process. And it would just be good to know that from a safety perspective. So that's the importance of this. So I appreciate your consideration.
Yeah, let's respect the Pipeline Task Force and give it a shot and see if they respond. I'll be curious myself or whether they put a flag up for that as to security information and they're not going to provide it, but let's support the letter. I think, folks.
I think I just want to know, the ME2 and the ME2X, that's thickness of the pipe?
Yeah, well, those are the names of the pipelines.
Oh, okay.
The Energy Transfer Partners. It's the first one, the original one is currently out of service, we think. They might be running different stuff through it. We're not sure. It was put into mothballs a while ago, but they might be running something else through it. Of course, they won't share that with us. So the ME2 and ME2X is a reference to the two other pipelines that are active in the township. So the question is, in our high consequence area, who was looking at the work plans, who was inspecting, who was looking at the thickness parameters and those types of things during the construction process, and can we have access to some of the records so we can have confirmations?
Is it your concern that these pipelines may carry the CO2 you mentioned
They
last time?
can't, because they're the pressure requirements of CO2 under the Mach 2 is generally, I think, around 2100 PSI, and these pipes are not
1200.
regulated for 2100 PSI. So if there's CO2 transportation and storage in the township, it's going to require new pipelines.
Pipeline, big ones.
Large
Big ones.
pipelines, over 30-inch.
Don't say that. Just don't say that.
So that's a whole other issue.
Questions?
No, I think it's great
Other
that the
questions?
Pipeline Task Force is.
I-
doing this.
Questions in the room?
I have a quick question. Should we maybe ask also for the thickness of the original Mariner?
The original is out of service.
Is there any point to that, Paul? It was, yeah. It was for petroleum. It was petroleum products, right? Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Given what I
Thanks for
read today.
work on it.
Other questions or comments?
Nope.
Okay, let's take a
Motion
vote
for
then.
that. Yep. Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Five,
Thank-
nothing.
Thank you for your work
Thank
on
you.
that.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you, Paul.
Might have to hand deliver it to Trenton, given what I heard earlier about the post office.
Just don't put a check in it, that's all.
That's right.
All right, under new business, resolution 2023-09, the Deer Management Program.
Thank you. So we do this. This is our annual resolution for our archery hunting program here in East Goshen. We do have 4 tracts of land that are hunted on for deer management purposes. And Yeah, this is again, the same,
Yeah.
as last, well, there's a slight change.
Wentworth, right?
Yes, so usually it is 4 groups, 4 pieces of land. That was the case for the, however long this program has been in place. Last year, there was 3 groups and 4 pieces of land. So one group got 2 pieces of land, 2 tracts of land. And now we're reverting back to 2 years ago when the Wentworth Club is back on the docket. So that is the only minor change. Other than that, everything's pretty much the same.
Any open issues with any complaints or anything with any of the groups?
No, there's no open complaints at all. I would like to, I don't have, yeah, I need to get some time on my hands, but I would like to look at this in more of a 10,000 square foot view and see, look at this as far as when this came about and if we are accomplishing what we set out to accomplish.
Okay.
Because when I look at the original documents, I don't see that to be the case. I also think we need to keep up with some of the counting a little bit more, which we haven't done as far as infrared flyovers
Yeah.
and things of that nature. So
Remember, this is not recreational hunting. This
Correct.
is management culling. That's exactly what it's about, and it's for safety
mhm.
of passengers in the road, and other more minor things like landscape protection, et cetera. So this is not recreational hunting. I'm fully supportive of the program, but it's important to
Well,
articulate that, I think.
thank you, Mike. Derek, come back to me. I get the impression that you want to look at this a little further. Should we-
No,
not
no,
just
no,
going forward.
that is just the program in its totality as far as, do we need to do a new infrared flyover? Do we need to try to get more hunting, because we haven't been harvesting a lot, to be honest with you, when you look at the numbers. So I don't think that what I was referencing affects passing this tonight.
I don't see
It's
that.
just,
They can come over.
no,
here.
Could have
motion would be to
done
pass
a couple of
resolution
days.
2023-09.
I'll make a motion. Oh, excuse me, David, you were gonna say
No,
something.
I just had a quick question. Remind me, what are the restrictions on bow hunting within, is it 50 yards of a house?
You say it's 150 feet.
No, I want to say, I'll email you that.
The reason I'm asking the question is
300.
the north part of East Goshen is super populated
Yeah,
with buck, doe. I mean, really bad right now.
It is.
I think it's 100 feet.
And so I don't know if there's any way to get into the township common space, for instance, in Hershey's Mill Estates, that
That car.
large corridor, which actually the sewer corridor is the Deer Superhighway.
Yeah, so that's sort of something we could look at when we
Yeah.
look at it in totality. We could look at,
Yeah.
are there different tracts of land we can sort of
Whether we
build
open up
upon?
to other areas.
Yeah,
or
that's
not,
what I'm-
depending on
Because I will
survey.
say, we are getting a lot of complaints on an annual basis about landscape issues with deer eating people's landscapes that they just paid for. And there's a lot of people that want us to allow looking into hunting around on a yearly basis, all 12 months, which you need a special permit to do so. There's only one municipality in Southeast Pennsylvania that has that special permit right now. So that's a little bit of a process. But then there are people on the other side of the fence that tell me they don't want hunting at all. And so,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit split here in East Goshen, but I do think we need to look at it a little bit more going forward and see if there's things we could tweak to make it more effective.
I discovered that arborvitae is also known as deer salad.
Well, so is oak leaf viburnum and summer lilies and you name it.
I have a question
Yeah.
about coyotes.
Coyotes,
So we have a couple herds of coyotes in the township.
herds.
And I'm wondering, is there coyote hunting allowed? And is there a season for that? Are we allowed to take them out?
There is, we look, Mark and I have had conversations about this because we've heard of coyote sightings in the area. There's nothing that we know of that allows us to tell people they can or cannot. shoot
Nothing
coyotes.
says they cannot. Okay.
There's nothing that says, I've not seen anything that says they can't shoot them themselves,
Okay.
but
Well, we gotta find
I don't know
out.
if
The
I read
Game
that.
Commission has.
I think we need to find out about that. If there are some regulations on that, because I'd like to make sure that things are opened up to get rid of those coyotes too, because we've got,
I know there are
Couple herds.
professionals that do
They're
that.
wily. Those
they are,
coyotes.
they
Yeah.
wily
Get
coyotes.
it?
They are.
Yeah.
Wiley.
What do you expect? Okay. So, Mr. Chair, I would, if I might, I'd make a motion to adopt resolution number 2023, number 9, a resolution adopting specific provisions of the deer management program for the 2023-24 season.
Second.
All right. Further comments from the board? Anyone in the room? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. We're really in sync tonight. We have an escrow release first.
I have a question on this one before we make the motion. And that is, why would we be releasing contingency before the UNO is, or whatever the final aspect is? Am I reading it correctly that there's a release of contingency here of 8475? Why would we be releasing contingency before the project's done?
Well, it looked like we still had enough, in our opinion,
Okay,
for the
all right.
ENS.
Okay.
So I mean, that was the main concern after this
Yeah.
release was ENS issues.
Okay,
And it was our opinion that we have enough in the escrow
Okay.
still to take care of any ENS.
then I'll accept the
Honestly,
staff recommendation.
It's unbelievable that they had put that money,
Yeah.
its interest rates into escrow.
Okay, all right, very good, very good.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion that we release the escrow the amount of $22,300.
Second.
Okay, any questions, comments in the room? No, hearing none. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board authorizes the chair to sign the stormwater management operation and maintenance agreement for the in-ground pool located at 927 Linda Vista Drive.
And
Second,
Oh,
I was gonna say, do you want to make it?
if I'd like, can I merge them and also add the 901 Sorrel Hill Drive?
That's also an in-ground
You
pool.
can. Okay, second.
I'll second.
All right, thank you,
Okay.
David.
Thank you for that.
This is recommended by the township staff, vote.
Both in rooms.
Okay, any questions on that from the board in the
None.
room? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. John, Mr. Chair, before we go on, could I just ask staff a question? Each of these agreements talk about either annual or semi-annual inspections. The landowner is supposed to complete and submit that to the township. Is the administration affecting these, and are we getting good responses from those that have these agreements?
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne and I talked about this actually probably a month ago. We think we are, but we think given some staff changeover, we're trying to come up with a new system and a new way of checking.
Because we have scores of these. We must have 100 or 200 or
Yeah.
300 of these.
And I honestly think sometimes in the past, the townships relied a little bit too much on
On the
self-regulation.
Yes.
So right now we're starting from scratch and kind of making Excel sheets and making sure we kind of check that way, and looking at dates, but we're trying to come up with more sophisticated ways per the admin software,
Mm.
be able to have sort of ticklers putting in calendars
yeah.
and looking at that to make sure we
Okay,
get
all right,
letters.
good.
So
I'm appreciative of you guys doing that. Many of these structures are very simplistic with that don't have outfalls or they're just beds. So, but I appreciate you looking into that and inventorying it and following up. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Then we'll go on to the standing issues and projects. Derek.
So we have, sorry, I lost my agenda. It was the first one, Milltown Dam project.
You got it?
So Milltown Dam, what was that? Milltown,
We're just checking the Billy score,
oh, Phosphor.
4-0.
Which way?
Billy.
Okay,
Schwarber hit a home run.
All right.
First at
everybody let me talk now. No, I'm just kidding.
that.
Please go.
Derek, let Derek talk.
Play ball.
Oh,
I'm
chippy.
sorry.
So Milltown Dam project, our bid actually closed at midnight last night, so we did receive 3 bids for the Milltown Dam project. I can't really disclose the numbers right now because Gannett Fleming is still reviewing them for irregularities, making sure everything is up to snuff on it and making sure we're comparing apples to apples. What I will say is they came back a little higher than I would have liked. So I'll leave it at that right now, but we are in process of reviewing those. And as soon as Gamma Fleming is done, I will talk to them and then we will get it on one of the board agendas coming up soon. So that is where we are right now. You have to make decisions on that and it'll be at the board's.
Do we have a deadline set for us by the government to take out that dam?
No, there are deadlines associated with the grant. But
Well-
they're not, right now, I have not been made aware of any deadlines for the actual work from the
Okay.
DEP perspective for the dam itself.
Okay. Other questions on that? Milltown Pocket Park.
Milltown Pocket Park, same as last time. We are shooting for the fall. It is just a matter of coordinating public works availability with the manufacturer because it has to be in sync. We have to lay the groundwork, literally in order for the manufacturer to be able to put in the equipment, but everything is set in order to do that and shouldn't be that large of a project when it happens. As far as the time, whether it takes a few days or whatever, it's gonna be quick to get
Okay.
that system in.
And you mentioned boat trio.
And yeah, I was gonna say Dave took care of that for me earlier, but we did some of the pre-dredging work on that. And we're looking to complete half of it now and half of it next year.
Good.
Okay.
Any other questions on them? Okay, any other matter?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about a software update. So I'd like to know about the Edmunds software. So we have, I know that last year we were getting the program was being rolled into the various departments. I don't see a change in what like the format of my sewer or trash bills. Was that supposed to be part of the financial software that was going to be able to spit out a bill differently? And then the other component is, has it been rolled out into codes? Because that was supposed to happen by what, December?
Yeah, the full implementation was supposed to be of December last year.
And so where are we with that? Or is it?
Right
fully
now,
implemented?
I'm tentatively, we did have a resignation of our utility biller. I do have a new hire starting in August already. She did train with us already. And we are looking to move into that system come hell or high water in September.
What have been the delays? Where have the delays been
The
happening?
initial delay was with the original rollout and payroll. There were some
Mhm.
system issues. The company bit off a little more than they could chew as far as deliverable promises and overselling the number of systems. I don't think they were ready. They had a banner sales year, the year that we got on board with a number of other municipalities. So they didn't have the project teams in place. We had IT issues on our end with connectivity, which delayed us between 3 to 4 to 5 months of payroll implementation, which was step one.
Okay,
Then we did AR, and then we had a transition from AR to a new person. So Barb retired, trained our new person in January through March, early March. And now she's fully capable of Edmunds. Now the next step
Okay.
has been utility, and the prior person leading that point is very hesitant to take that step. And I'm just gonna pull off the Band-Aid and go.
okay. So, so there have been delays on our end for different reasons on the side of the contractor as well. Now, do we get any kind of reimbursement for services that were not delivered in a timely manner or?
Yes, I'm in contact with their president and their
Oh, good.
accounting
Okay.
staff to get reimbursed for what we paid that's not implemented, and
Good.
also reimbursement for having to be in 2 systems at once for this
Oh.
extended period of time, which was not contemplated.
Have we
Okay.
paid them completely?
For year 1, yes, and
Okay,
it's not fully implemented. So we quantified what we're owed.
okay,
It's,
good.
it's roughly 60,000 will
Wow.
come back to us. Or we'll take it off the next bill. We just want to make sure that we're made whole.
Do you think it would be, at this point, are we in too deep to go with anybody else?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure, can we put this on as an update with our
a good idea.
projects, because this is, I want to make sure that we're keeping a little bit closer eye on that. Because I want to make sure that we're holding them accountable. And that we're updated, that you are holding them accountable, that's all.
Sure.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Any other matter? All right, thank you for that, Michelle. That's important. We're up to public comment. Is there any public comment? Please come up.
By the way, it's important on our support of the staff, if the consultant is not define something, we're ready to support.
I agree. Absolutely. That's one of the reasons, that's one of the reasons I asked, because they need, yeah,
That if there's something we can do.
we need to do something.
I will say something Michelle said to me, and I'll repeat it because I'm very serious about this. This is a 7-month delay. I know it's probably their fault rather than ours, but we should be kept abreast of these developments or lack of developments in the future, please. Thank you.
Hi there, Judy DeFonso, Gateswood Drive, East Goshen, obviously. That's over in Marydale. And want to talk about two things tonight. The first is the pond over on Barker Drive where we have the meadow. And I'll tell you, it's so pretty right now if you get a chance to drive by. And the one thing I really like about the meadow, no geese. When the grass is tall, the geese go to somebody else's neighborhood. Not sure exactly where, but my girlfriend posted something on Reservoir Road, but you know what? And when we went, I attended a number of the meetings about, the whole dredging of the pond and the meadow. And I thought part of the plan was to have the meadow there as long as possible throughout the year to prevent the geese from nesting. And I noticed it in the fall, the whole meadow was chopped down, looked like grass, and the geese came back. So all winter long, there was geese in that area. I'm not sure what they were doing. I don't think it's their nesting time, but let's just say they can create some traffic jams. They definitely are not toilet trained, so they leave their mark. And I'm just wondering if there's a possibility and who to talk to about, who cuts the grass, who schedules the grass cutting? Can we do it just once a year in the spring, maybe to discourage the geese to be as?
That's gonna be a Mark Miller.
Mark
schedule.
Miller is overseeing that, but meadow management typically involves cutting those kind of meadows. Sometimes they're done with controlled burns. Obviously, we're not going to do that, but they're typically twice a year. But that's a question Derek can ask Mark whether or not we can effectively delay cutting perhaps until later on in the fall. It could be just schedule related to the public works and their deployment and various other projects, Judy. So that's a good point, because you're that's right. When the grass is high, and that was the whole point of creating that meadow environment, that geese like to see where they are, and that completely keeps them on edge, and they avoid those places. So why don't we do that and see? That's a very good comment. If it can be delayed and without affecting the environment they're trying to manage there with the grass.
Yeah, understand, Judy, they have to mow at least once a year or you'll have an overgrown situation.
Yeah, well, that's, I guess what I'm asking is, can we just do it once a year?
Yeah.
And
I have to talk to Mark. I
Yeah,
mean,
so we'll see what we
usually,
can do.
usually
Good
it's done twice a year, but I can see his thoughts.
Yeah. let's
yeah,
see what we can do.
and also maybe also if you have other meadows within the township to also consider that geese factor and the mowing and how once it's mowed, the geese tend
All
to
right, good.
return. So
Judy, I know you and I spoke about that, the ABC appreciation event. I actually have a calendar reminder come Labor Day to talk to Mark about it, so it was not forgotten. So we'll
okay,
make sure.
I'm glad, but I just and the other thing I wanted to mention today is that I'm kind of doing a lot of pipeline stuff outside of the task force, and one of the rumors that we have heard, well, first of all, this whole Mariner East situation, was very well planned out, I think, even before they broke ground or got permits or anything like that. And there is talk that with the new technology, namely lining the existing pipelines, that they might be able to switch from the natural gas liquids to the carbon dioxide.
Mhm.
And the carbon dioxide just scares the heck out of me. I mean, the one place in Mississippi that had a pipeline break, there were people about a half a mile away and their car stalled because of lack of oxygen. They passed out because of lack of oxygen. And that was half a mile. If something like that were to come through East Goshen and there were to be an accident, it's, you know, it's just as bad as the NGLs. It's just that there's not going to be a fire. I mean, that's the way I look at it. And
Those are good questions. I think the pipeline task force can maybe pick up on that a little bit. We initially with this was it Mach 2 hub site, David, the website. This all relates to the support by, I think it's Senator Coons in Delaware, is that correct? And the governor, our current governor, Governor Shapiro, is supporting the project. If they build this plant in one of those locations down on the waterfront, that these pipes would have to come through existing areas. And I had heard that the pipes could be as much as 30 inches or more in diameter. So that would require new pipes, but the lining of them, that's an interesting question. Maybe the pipeline task force can look into this and see. It is the kind, again, it's another one of these situations where transmission of gases, natural petroleum products, et cetera, are so heavily regulated and supported at the federal level that the state has even little. Of course, we don't have a pipeline agency, if you will, in the state the way some states do. But even that said, the feds regulated. It comes under these I'm not going to say the guise, but under the realm of national security. And if they have these easements, they're going to mine them, and it is a big concern because of it. David has been tuned into this. He was the one that tuned me into it. I don't know, going back 4 or 5 months now, 6 months when I first heard about it. Went to the website, saw some of the higher level public officials that are supporting this facility, and so the potential for it to come here through East Goshen and the whole pathway or similar pathway perhaps is a potential reality over the course of the next 3-4 years.
Well, the question is, what do we do about it?
What do we do? Well, in the meantime, inquiring about what Judy's asking, whether or not they can be repurposed through lining to handle a higher pounds per square inch, which is you referenced earlier, David. It's twice what the NGLs are approximately. That's a good question, but in some respects, one side of me says, well, that's one less pipeline, but are you putting a Band-Aid, so to speak, or a splint on something that it really shouldn't be to go play
I have
football.
two questions for David, especially in the group, the pipeline task force. Number one, is there a way we will know if they try to pump CO2 through our township?
Yeah.
Well,
Will we know, or can they?
We would probably know from a publicity standpoint whether they'll notify us or not. It's a whole other story.
Second question I have, and I'm just laying these out there so that you can take them back to the task force. Is it possible for us to do like I do in my house for carbon monoxide? I have a thing on the wall to tell if there's carbon monoxide coming out of the furnace. Can we do something like that for CO2?
We can. The issue is we can also do it for methane. But the issue is that the federal and state governments don't require the testing. And the companies that own the pipelines won't put them in, and their answer to us is, we comply with existing regulations. So, you know, that's a dilemma. So to Judy's question right now, we're one of the only, or maybe the only township in Pennsylvania that has a pipeline saturation ordinance on the books. The question I would raise is, does our pipeline saturation ordinance prohibit lining and repurposing an existing pipe? I don't know if that's going to happen, because that's going to be an economic question. If Energy Transfer owns the pipelines that would be repurposed, lined and repurposed, does it make more sense to ship CO2 to a storage facility or move NGLs for propane? It's a pure economic, and I think we're way down the line of considering that, but it's good to be aware of all this right now. So as it becomes a factor, I mean, there's the CO2 and hydrogen. It's blue hydrogen, not green hydrogen, which is a process of methane. So it's going to be using fracking product from Marcellus and Utica. It's going to encourage additional drilling and capacity. So the conundrum is going to increase drilling and capacity. They need the methane to make the hydrogen, but if they repurpose the lines, they won't be able to transport it. So my guess would be probably new lines are going to be required. Something that we're all keeping an eye on, and new pipelines coming through East Goshen Township, 30-inch pipelines. Everyone knows what we lived through for 5 years with Mariner. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Well, I might make a suggestion, then perhaps we should put in this letter that we're going to send, perhaps we can ask what the current PSI rating is, in addition to the thickness of the walls of the pipes, what the highest PSI rating is.
We know that.
We do have that PSI rating,
They
okay.
test it.
I thought.
You can't run it at that.
Right. I thought we did have that information. Okay, all right.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
My other thing that I just wanted to mention is that, you talk about regulations. There are no regulations at the federal or state level on carbon dioxide pipelines. They're totally unregulated at this point. So they can go anywhere. But that also opens it up for a local entity like a township to have their own regulations, because we're not stepping on anyone's toes if we were to, say, ban carbon dioxide pipelines within the township.
Bring us an ordinance suggestion.
Yeah.
The whole thing is that it would definitely be something brandy new that no one else has done, because again,
Something novel is what will potentially help us.
Yeah,
And we can
So that's
amend our
good.
Existing ordinance to include those kind of provisions for value that the ordinance has.
yeah,
because
We could amend the ordinance.
I would go with the separate, because I don't want to contaminate
Oh,
that
that's right, you
the
said that.
uniqueness of our
Right.
pipeline saturation.
I agree with
ordinance.
that.
Yes.
Bring us an ordinance
But-
or two.
But yeah, that
But
we would put
please.
that back on.
Wait
the
a minute.
pipeline
Now,
task
with-
How are you gonna
with-
do that?
with-
I thought you lost Christina.
she moved to Washington DC, so yeah, we definitely lost her.
Who's gonna write it?
So that.
We'll
that
find
would-
someone. We'll
I
find
think that
someone.
ordinance would be a continued conversation at the pipeline task force. And
Yeah, because again, I was thinking, should I mention this? Should I not mention this? And I saw your pictures and it said the preparing for the future. And I think that this is one way to prepare for the future
We appreciate your
with
input.
fewer pipelines in and fewer dangers to our
You don't have
citizenship.
to bring us an actual ordinance, but if you bring us bullet points, we can spin it internally.
Okay,
We
okay.
may need some bullet points.
I'll-
And it's
I'll-
not to doubt you, Judy, but I certainly like the pipeline task force.
Yeah.
Are you not on the
research
task force anymore? You
I'm
were.
still on the task force.
Oh, okay.
It's absolutely the regulation. It's not to doubt you, but I make sure the pipeline task force speaks
That
up
would
to
be
the
great.
authority.
Yeah, the issue is
Okay.
being preempted by the state and regulations. And if there are no state regulations and the question is it gonna be utility? Or are they gonna apply to be a utility? Yes or
Of
no?
course they will.
And if they do, then we might have preemption with the, so there's a lot of unanswered questions, but the way it is right now, we're not preempted in the potential that we could have an ordinance that wouldn't be preempted by state, so interesting.
All right,
Thank you,
well,
Judy.
our thanks to the Pipeline Task
Thanks,
Force.
Paul.
Any other public comment? Liaison reports? No correspondence?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye. Good night.